they will do absolutely nothing for you. Walk away.
Okay, guys, so this is my walk away story. So I walked away from the Democratic plantation last year, the beginning of last year. And when Donald Trump was first elected, I was just like everybody else around me. I was just talking shit. I was saying that it was going to be a nuclear war. He was going to round up the blacks and the minorities, throw us all in a concentration camp. I said, I was just talking all type of ridiculousness. Matter of fact, when he won, I was in Cairo, Egypt at the time. And, I was on my laptop and I saw the news headline that said President-elect Donald Trump. And when I saw that, I flipped out. I just started running all around the mall, screaming and yelling. And so, after that, I started to really pay attention because I thought that, America was just going down the drain, right? So I started to really pay attention to what was coming from Trump, right? And so he did something. I can't remember specifically what it was, but he did something, and I said, you know what, this is actually good. I said, I could see how this could benefit, our nation, our country. I said, I actually think this is really good. And so I went to someone who I highly respected, someone who, I thought to be an intellectual, someone who I thought to be a rational thinking person. And, I basically pointed out, this what Donald Trump did. And this person, she just yelled at me relentlessly for hours straight, just because I pointed out something great that he did. And so when that happened, I said, you know what? I think a lot of people may be doing the same thing. I think a lot of people aren't actually paying attention to, the positive aspects of his presidency and what he's doing. I think that everybody's just so overly concerned with the negative aspects. And if you say the name Trump, they're having a panic attack, a whole meltdown. And so, I said, you know what? Let me go try and do some research on my own. Because a lot of stuff just wasn't adding up to me, right? And one thing in particular, they kept trying to say that, he was a racist. But I can recall, the NAACP giving him a reward, multiple awards for doing, for actually providing jobs in the black community. I can remember him sponsoring a lot of black athletes and black events. I mean, back in the day, he was our favorite guy. And, also, they tried to tie him to the KKK. But, and I'm from the South, and I've never known of the KKK to like Jewish people. Now, mind you, Trump's daughter is married to a Jew, and the same Jew is advising Trump. So I said, I've never seen a KKK member that would allow a Jew to advise him, let alone declare Jerusalem the capital of Israel. I said, this is one strange racist boy, so, I was born that night, but not last night. So I started to really think about all of this type of stuff. And so I started to do my little research, and I started to look into Trump's policies. And the first thing I said to myself, I said, you know what? I actually agree with the majority of these policies. I think he got some really, really great policies. I think that these policies can be really good for our country. And so beyond that, I started to really pay attention to Trump himself and, how he was conducting. For me, he's a businessman. I'm a businessman, and I saw him like conducting business. And I said, you know what? This he's just moving through every single policy. All of his campaign promises, he's keeping it. I mean, this guy's literally, he said he's going to do that. Boom, he done it. He said he's going to do this. Boom, he done it. And we got to be honest. Barack Obama lied from the time he came in office to the time he left out. I mean, he barely took, he kept a few promises for a few people who looked like who paid him well. But Trump, Trump had no incentive. Nobody was paying him. He already has his own money. He came in this thing. just really ready to take care of business, really working for the American people. And that's when I started to see. And so I said, you know what? These guys are attacking him. Even when he was, about to meet with Kim Jong-un from North Korea, I said, wow, this is absolutely amazing. I was like, surely, like no one can find something negative about that. And sure enough, they could find everything they possibly could. Oh, we don't think the meet is going to go well. They could find everything they could say to try and disparage Trump, try and disparage anybody from even supporting Trump. And so, I did a lot of research. I started to look into the history of the Democratic Party. I started to look into the early history of the Republican Party. And I found out that there has been a huge effort to hide the true history of the Democratic Party. And, I went even deeper. I started to study, the Soviet Union era and the propaganda that's attached to the Soviet Union era and how they were able to effectively, subvert people's minds. They use psychological subversion techniques in order to, and they do this through the media and through the education system in order to completely change people's trains of thought, in order to completely change your mind. And so I saw how this, I saw like the correlation with these type of tactics from the Marx. I studied the Marxist Lenin's philosophy, socialism, communism, where was socialism at in societies? How effective was it? Why did it not work? I studied capitalism. I studied the whole correlation. I could see direct correlations between a lot of the stuff that the Soviets with the propaganda and the Nazis were doing within the Democratic Party, which absolutely blew my mind. And so then and then another thing that really struck out to me was the destruction of the black family due to democratic liberal policies. Prior to the 1960s, less than 10% of black homes had a father in a home. And you look at modern day America now, post the 1960s, post Lyndon B. Johnson's liberal welfare state, there's clearly a decline within the black family structure. Over 70% of black households do not have a father. And it's all directly linked to liberal policies. And when I really started to look at, because at this time, but prior to this, I had no clue about politics. I didn't really understand nothing about politics. But now when I go back and I look at all of the major cities, Detroit and all these cities, Chicago, all these cities that are ran down, Baltimore, these are all democratically ran cities. So, clearly the people who are running these cities, either they don't give a damn or they're not capable of producing, of cities that produces like functioning people. And so for me, it became clear that these people, they don't seem to have a care of actually lifting minorities or anyone out of poverty. They just seem to have a care of assisting you while you are actually in poverty. And so for me, this became evidently clear, and it caused me to completely walk away. I didn't even walk. I ran my ass away. I ran my ass away quick. And so, and of course, when you come out and you say you support Trump, of course you get a lot of backlash. But for me, I'm free, baby. I'm 1,000% free. I'm not walking around thinking that the white man is holding me down. I'm not walking around with these, with this liberal mindset. I'm not walking around seeing division and playing into these identity politics, seeing color and all of this stuff. We are American, straight up and down American. And I remember at a time when it was prideful to be American. And now we see people, want to disrespect the flag and all of this type of stuff, trying to say, and they don't even realize, like, a lot of these cases that y'all hooping and hollering about, I did the same hooping and hollering. And I'm telling you, I calmed down and I went and looked into a lot of things. And I'm telling you, we have been duped. We have been hoodwinked to the highest order, And so, I really encourage you guys to, really take it upon yourself, do your own research, really look into the history of the Democratic Party, because they are not who they're portraying themselves to be. These are the people who wanted slavery. These are the people who did not want blacks to vote. These were the KKK members, and these are the true racists. So that's my story. That's my input. Again, I hope you look at it. I hope you not just walk away, but run your ass away. Peace.
Hey guys, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Justin Garrett Brannon, and I am a proud conservative Orthodox Christian. But I've not always been that way. In the 2016 election, I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. I supported Bernie Sanders because I knew how corrupt Hillary Clinton was. Bernie Sanders hit her very hard because of her meetings with billionaire donors, her meetings with Wall Street executives and giant corporations, where she was paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Bernie was right. He said, hey, man, that must have been a powerful speech. You know, I would love to hear a speech worth $100,000 or more. And I remember how hard he hit her. And then when he supported her, it felt like a betrayal. It felt like a betrayal of the American people. It was what you would see in wrestling as turning heel, right? He joined the bad guys supporting her. He knew she was bad. He knew she was corrupt. He spoke against her corruption and then decided to support her anyways. Now, I had watched how Hillary Clinton had made back deals with CNN. She made deals with the DNC. Essentially, what was amazing was she actually made it so that the current chairman of the Democratic National Committee, she chose as her vice president. And the head of her campaign, she turned into the head of the DNC. So everybody got a promotion if they supported Hillary Clinton. It was a farce. It was terrible. The way that the superdelegate system worked in the Democratic Party was absurd. And it was just terrible. It was an override of the voters. Bernie Sanders was packing entire stadiums, and Donald Trump was as well, but Hillary couldn't fill a school. And it was amazing to see Bernie Sanders turn heel on the American people and support Hillary. Now, I was a huge critic of Donald Trump. I considered myself a conservative Democrat. I considered myself a pro-life Democrat. I've always kind of occupied that middle place because I wanted to affirm social policies, but I also, had a very strong stance against abortion. And one of the things I hit Donald Trump on was the fact that he used to be pro-choice, and right before he ran for president, he suddenly became pro-life. And I thought that was suspicious. I thought that his bankruptcies were suspicious. I thought that he wasn't a man of character because of how many divorces he's had. And there are a lot of things that you can say about the president that makes you that he's not a very great candidate. I'll be honest. I didn't think he was a great candidate then. I still really don't think that he's a wonderful person. But what I will say is this. What has really driven me far away from the Democratic Party has been the violence that has been encouraged and the violence that has been demonstrated by the Democrats between Black Lives Matter protests that have devolved into riots multiple times, and Antifa, and the way that they have destroyed property, the way that they have literally handed out weapons to protesters, shanks and knives and things like that. It was absolutely terrifying seeing these people absolutely terrifying seeing what these people have done. And the fact that you have politicians encouraging people to act this way. When I saw that Governor Paul Rand was it Rand Paul? I can't remember. He got beat up by his neighbor. He was assaulted and his ribs were broken. When I saw that a Democrat had taken to a Republican ball game and shot up the place and shot them. This kind of thing doesn't happen. This kind of political violence does not happen on the conservative right. And the more that I saw this, the more turned off I was. Now, Donald Trump has many character flaws. I do not believe that the man is a Christian. But I will say that I am pleasantly surprised by what he has done in office. When he pulled out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, when he pulled out of the Iran deal, those were big moments. Big moments. Moving the capital to Israel, the capital to Jerusalem, was something that has been an American policy for several generations, and every president has said that they would do it, and nobody did except for him. Now, as an Orthodox Christian, I have reservations about that decision, but he actually made good on his promise. He's out trying to build walls, and he cut taxes, and my family, see, when I was a Bernie supporter, previous to that, I had been on welfare. I was on welfare, basically because I had a period of joblessness, not really joblessness, but I wasn't being very effective in the business that I was involved in. And I kind of relied on some social programs, and I think that it was my reliance on social programs that made me feel like I couldn't possibly be a Republican. But it's false to suggest that Republicans don't believe that hardworking Americans should not be able to get assistance from a system that they paid into. Right? It's false that those programs need to be taken away. I think that one of the things that really turned me off was when the tax cuts came and they were called crumbs, and how people said that it didn't affect normal, everyday Americans. And I think that's absurd. My paycheck has grown significantly, probably a couple $100 a month from the tax cuts. In addition to that, my company, AT&T, gave us $1,000 bonus. Also, AT&T is opening up 1,000 more retail stores. So this accusation that that lower taxes does not lead to job growth is absurd. Under the Trump administration, I was able to save up enough money to pay off bad debt and to buy a house. I am now sitting in a house that, or I'm now standing in a house that I couldn't have before. And that's a big deal. $200 a month is only not a big deal to rich liberal Democrats, rich liberal Democrats who've already made their money, and they're already, in their 30s or 40s, or their kids who they've raised, and they're probably still in college, and their parents are paying for a bunch of their stuff, and they just don't, they don't have a grasp on reality. They don't know what it's like to be making $40,000, $50,000 a year and having 2 kids. They don't know what an extra $200 a month can mean in a family's grocery budget. And that's just huge. For me, that was enormous. And I don't know, the more that I see Donald Trump in action, the more that I see that he is, in fact, an effective president. Do I think he's a good person? No, I don't think that Donald Trump is a good person. But do I think he's a good president? I do. I do think that Donald Trump is a very good and effective president. When liberals were concerned about him starting a war between us and North Korea, he's actually seeming to cause some sort of peace in North Korea and in the DPNK. And it's just, I don't know what it is. Maybe, maybe Kim Jong-un needed to have somebody who is man enough to make big words and flex the American muscle and tell them, hey, we're not going to tolerate you launching missiles over our allies. It's not going to happen. In the meantime, our previous president did nothing about the fact that these guys attacked an American company because of a movie that made fun of their leader, The Interview. And I think that Donald Trump showing strength, American strength to the United Nations and telling them, look, if you want our funding, you can't just keep voting against us, right? If you want us to continue to fund literally a quarter of your budget, you can't keep painting us as evil and backing, these countries that have known links to terrorism. There's just a lot that's happening. The Kavanaugh hearings. You see a good guy who's never had a problem in his life. The day that his name is mentioned, there are people holding, basically calling him evil. They don't even know who the guy is. They're calling him evil on the very day that his name is mentioned. There was a tweet that went out from feminists who basically they said, we oppose XX, meaning whoever it is that Donald Trump nominates, we oppose them. And then his life was destroyed right in front. And then people get mad that he had the nerve to say, hey, look, I'm being attacked by political people for political reasons. And they think that him pointing that out means that he can't be a good judge when he has had a stellar record for the entirety of his career, when he's called a serial gang rapist and doesn't like the idea that his name is being dragged through the mud when he hasn't done anything to deserve it. That kind of nonsense that is tolerated and propagated by the media, and when I see how CNN colluded with the Hillary Clinton campaign, when I see how they're spinning stories about the president and about his nominee for the Supreme Court, I see these things, and I agree, it's fake news. That's what it is. It's fake news, and Americans need to depend more on independent media, because these giant news companies, they can't be held accountable. They won't be held accountable, and they're political machines. I don't think that it's possible that you could that's true for Fox News as well. They're all political machines, and they're not giving people the whole story, neither side. And I think this is why I had to walk away from the Democratic Party. There's just so much violence and corruption and deception and lying. I had to walk away. And they said, hey, there's no room in our party for a pro-life Democrat. They said that at the Democratic National Committee or conference. They said that there was no room for people who did not support pro-choice. So they told me that they don't want my vote. And I'll never give it to them again. #walk away.
My name's Terry, and the reason I walked away from the Democratic Party, back in the 90s, I voted for Bill Clinton, and we marched on Washington with a quilt. We tried to get money for AIDS charities and for AIDS research, and they shot us down, actually. They didn't give us any of the money that we needed. We started the Atlanta AIDS Walk. We did everything that we could to get up money. And then Hillary Clinton went on TV and said that marriage was between a man and a woman. Homosexuality was, a sin. So really left a bad taste in my mouth. And that's when I left that party. And it was really funny because she waited 20 years later and then tried to manipulate my children. And yes, I have 3 children. And she tried to manipulate them into voting for her, saying that she cared about my rights when so many of my brothers died of AIDS waiting for help that they didn't get from a party that promised they cared about us and didn't give us anything. So that's when I left the party. And I find it really funny because if anybody with a brain does any background check, they'll see that President Trump donated a lot of money to AIDS charity, and he helped us in many ways. And that's something that they're not telling in the community. That's something that none of my brothers are getting to hear about. But they're all like, they get into a frenzy and they want to argue with you. And they'll like stand up to your face and tell you you're an idiot and you're against your own, when they don't even know the history. A lot of these younger ones didn't even live through it. They haven't seen what we saw. And then there's the older ones that I think just don't remember or don't want to remember. They buried it with all of our dead brothers, the 3 generations of gay males that died waiting for, someone to do something for them. And that's when I lost any luster that I had for the Democratic community and their party. And for years, I've been trying to wake up my brothers and my sisters. And now, look what they're doing to what we built. What we fought to get rights for, they're now bastardizing. They're bringing in all these, anything they can. Things that back in the day we said would never happen. We just want the same rights as everybody else. And now all of a sudden, they're bastardizing what we fought for so hard to make happen. And I don't think that people are really opening their eyes and seeing that. And I pray that my brothers and sisters open their eyes and see these people for what they really are. They are totally for the fall of America. And look at the people that they're putting in with our equal rights and our marches. And these people, if you look at their backgrounds, they have nothing to do with what you and I are really fighting for, what none of us as Americans want. As Americans, we all want to love each other, black, white, green, yellow, orange, purple, whatever the hell we are. We all want to respect each other. We all want to help each other prosper. We go out of our way to help other countries, but yet we're not helping ourselves anymore. Something has to change, and I really think Trump is that change. So, and anything that I've said, you can go and check. You can find out. It's history. People can't change history. The articles are there. The videos are there. Everything's there. Look up what Hillary said. Look up when Trump gave us $8 million. So these things, you can find them. They're very easy to locate. Know your enemy. And unfortunately, these days, our enemy is the Democratic Party. They're the enemy of everyone. Gay, straight, black, white, everybody. Because they want to segregate us. If they separate us, make us hate each other, they can pick us off easier. But if we all come together, they can't do that. That's what they're trying to do. Divide, separate, conquer. And I babbled on, but I just thought I'd get my point across. And I've lost a lot of friends by saying what I've said to you in my community. A lot of people I've had heated discussions with them, and it's very hard to get someone that has that liberal mindset to hear a fact or even go look it up. And back in my day, we were liberals with facts. You know, we knew what we were doing. And these people, they're not what we were. And I'm glad you guys are waking up, and God bless you. And I hope you bring more people to the truth. Take care.
Hey guys, my name is Billy. I am a married gay man, and I live in East Tennessee with my husband Mark. I recently been watching a lot of the videos, especially on YouTube, on the Walk Away movement, and I have been blown away by a lot of the testimonies that have been given. And a lot of people, not only in this country, but in other countries, are giving up on the left. And I think Donald Trump has been an inspiration. And this whole movement that has come together is just amazing. And so I wanted to give a shout out to all you guys out there. Kudos to you. It is very hard to get away from liberalism. And you have done a great job. And just being able to come forward to say I'm walking away. My video is a little different, I guess. I don't know, maybe similar to some of you. But I've always been a Republican or a conservative. And it is, let me tell you, being a gay person and being a Republican, that is a hard life. It's a lot easier to come out to my family as gay than it was to tell my gay friends that I was a Republican. I think I have been called just about every name in the book. I remember in the 2004 elections, I had a Bush Cheney bumper sticker on my car, and I went to a local club, a gay club, with my then boyfriend that I'm no longer with, thank God. He was a jerk. But, you know, I was called a disgrace to the gay community. They were so embarrassed, and I just remember thinking to myself, you know, how can they just be so mean and cruel to people and just call them names? And I've caught on to their actions a long time ago, and you have to fit into a certain clique in this area. Now, I can't speak for every area. Maybe it is all over the country, but if you're not in a certain clique, I mean that if you don't vote Democratic straight up and down the line on a party ticket, then you are just you're awful, you're evil, you're just the devil. And I just want to say shout out to all the maybe some gay people on here, and all the gay people on here, maybe to share this video if you don't mind, to encourage people. You know, you don't have to be afraid anymore. If you're a conservative, you can be a conservative. God made you a free thinker. You don't have to vote Democrat just because you're gay. And I've done a lot of research here lately about the Democratic Party, and it is not the party of equality. And I pretty much always known this, but I wanted to go into depth about it. Throughout history, there is a history of racism throughout the Democratic Party. First of all, I want to go back to the Trail of Tears through Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was a Democrat. You remember the Trail of Tears? Where the Cherokees were forced off their land. Well, that was Andrew Jackson. He was a Democrat, and from Tennessee, I believe. If you move forward to the Civil War, it was the Democratic Party, the Democrats in the South that were for slavery, and it was the Republicans in the North that fought against slavery. And there were some more issues to the Civil War, but the slavery was one of the main issues, was to keep it from going westward. And it was the Republican Party that fought. And Republicans from the North and many Republicans from the South, yes, there was, especially this area that I live in, East Tennessee, was pro-union, that fought and spilled blood to free the black man from bondage. And, when President Lincoln was assassinated, he was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, a Democrat. And then Andrew Johnson, at the time, back then, whoever got the second most votes was the vice president. So Andrew Johnson was vice president under Lincoln. And when Lincoln was assassinated, Andrew Johnson, a Democrat, became president. And then you started seeing all the progress that had been made start going downhill. And it wasn't long after that till the Democrats formed the Ku Klux Klan. And they incited violence. They lynched blacks. They killed blacks. They hung them. They burned crosses in their yard. And they did that for years. And the Klan's still going today. And it's just, the Democratic Party is just a history of its excessive racism. The Jim Crow laws in the South, they were implemented by Democrats. You remember the Dixiecrats, Wallace in 1968. They were against equal rights for blacks. They were against the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, the 14th and the 15th Amendment, which established citizenship and voter rights. And they were against that. It was the Republican Party that fought for that. And, Lyndon Johnson famously said that he would have those N-words voting Democrat for 200 years. And because he put in the Great Society as a welfare state. And pretty much black women were told that if they divorced their husbands, or as long as they were single, that the government would take care of them, give them housing, take care of their babies, and as long as there wasn't a father in the picture. And fathers are in jail, thanks to Bill Clinton and his crime bill that passed. The Democrats were for that, and they have incarcerated a lot of black people, probably more than any in history, because of Bill Clinton, a racist. And, it's really sad. All you hear on TV, on the mainstream news media and all these outlets, is how the Republican Party is racist. And it couldn't be further from the truth. It was founded on abolitionist ideas. And it has always been for equal rights. And all you gay people out there need to wake up. Because, I was seeing this video today about the New York Times, a liberal newspaper, supposed to be pro-gay. The one that tries to, talk about how racist Trump is and how horrible Trump is. Pretty much making fun of Trump and Putin, calling them lovers, pretty much. Depicting them as lovers in the bed. As an insult. And how can you be for gay rights on the left, but use the gay lifestyle of the gay community as an insult to someone? As something that's horrible. And, they're all for equality when election time comes. But what have they done? I want to know what the Democratic Party has done for the black community or the gay community. They have done squat. Look at the inner cities. Look at the big cities like Cleveland, all these places. They're ran by Democrats. And the black people, those are impoverished, And the Democrats, they've done nothing for gay people either. We have gay marriage because the Supreme Court, a tiebreaker by a justice appointed by George Bush, pretty much approved gay marriage. And, Obama won the White House in 2008, and he had huge majorities in Congress for 2 years. They could have voted on rights for gays. They could have voted on gay marriage and done all kinds of stuff and voted on equal rights in the workplace. They didn't do it because they don't care. They want it as a campaign issue. They don't want issues solved. They want a campaign issue because theirs is a campaign of racism. They want to divide us by our race. They want to divide us by our sexual orientation, and our working class, the rich against the poor, black against the white, gay against straight, straight against gay. And, identity politics are destroying this country. And we need to come together as Americans and not worry about our skin color or our sexual orientation. I'm a gay man, but I don't try to let that define me in life. I'm not a victim, and I refuse to be a victim. I go to work, I work with a lot of straight guys. A lot of them would be considered redneck guys. I don't expect any special treatment. I do just as hard a work as they do, and I wouldn't expect no different out of myself. I don't ask for anything special at work. And they're good to me for the most part. And the only resistance I've had over the past 20 years on any of this is by gay people and the left calling me names because I'm a conservative. So it takes courage to come out as a conservative gay person, and kudos to y'all who have. Feel free to share this video if you want to with all your friends. We've got to get more people to take that red pill and get them off the Democrat plantation, because that's what it is. So anyway, it's time for me to get ready for work. I just wanted to make this video, and I just want to thank the creator of the Walkaway movement. Thank you. It's nice to know that there are many people out here that feel the way I do. And, you know, thank you all for all your posts. I'll continue to read them and watch videos. And you all have a blessed evening. God bless you.
My name's Kelly. I'm from Arkansas. I am not a Russian bot. And I have already submitted a testimonial, but Brandon made it quite clear that it was imperative that we start submitting videos. So, long story short, a child of the 80s, teen actually, born in the 70s. I think my cat's going to join in here. Anyway, a lot of diversity in the 80s, and Democratic Party seemed like the option for me when I was old enough to vote. Long story short, the day after my 18th birthday, I gave birth to my daughter, who was conceived due to rape. It was a very difficult time, difficult situation, but the worst part was the fact that I had a lot of family from up north. It clashed with the family here in the South, and I was constantly being hammered to have an abortion, told that I was a victim, that the child would be born with this dark cloud over its head, and she would then become a victim and not a productive member of society because of this dark cloud that would continually follow her. And I decided that I needed to find a way to break free of being a victim and separate myself from that victim mentality, and I did that. I chose not to have the abortion. My daughter is a very productive member of society. She's a wonderful, wonderful mother, and all around just great person. The circumstances have not affected who she has become one bit. But that situation, I believe, is what tempted me to back up and research abortion and why it seemed to be so heavily pushed by the Democrats. It's hard for me to accept that a party that championed themselves as loving and accepting of all were also champions of murder, because that's what it is. So I continued to educate myself and decided that the Democratic Party was no place for me. Not however soon enough, because I did vote for Bill Clinton, and I even defended him during the little blue dress incident. convincing myself that it didn't matter because it was private. Yeah, that's a sticky situation. Anyway, abortion is what prompted me to look deeper into the Republican Party. And the deeper I dove, the more I realized that this party was not full of hate and racism. It was everything but that. Sure, you have your radicals, radical Christians, you have hate groups, you have the KKK, white supremacy, you name it, it's all out there, but it's not defined by Republican or Democratic. It's defined by hate. These people just hate anything that's different. I'm just not that way. I'm accepting. And to be a Democrat meant that I had to hate people that didn't agree with what my party stood for. So, again, I was confused on how this party was the party of love and acceptance and intolerant to everything other than what they believed in. I don't want to continue to drag this on and re-emphasize every single thing that I wrote in my written testimony. My main point was to let you know that the Republican Party is one of the most accepting group of individuals that I've ever been a part of in my entire life. I walked away a long time ago, and I encourage others who are viewing this testimony or by chance read my other testimony to give it a chance. If you're not ready to walk away, nobody's pressuring you here. Nobody's wanting to force you into their beliefs or their ideals or a certain mindset. But if you will look, if you will research, if you will educate yourselves, you will find that this is not the party that we are being portrayed as on these other media outlets. And Donald Trump, bless him. Yeah, he's not your typical political leader. He wasn't born and raised by the Kennedys and groomed from birth to be that president that was broke straight out of a political mold from day one, making sure that you have absolutely no skeletons in your closet or anything else for that matter, because you can't ever make the mistake of doing anything that can be dug up on you later and ruin your political career. He's just a man who made it and saw others taking it down. Not just for the big guy, but for the little guy and everybody in between. He has not had a perfect past. He has skeletons in his closet. But he was willing to be transparent and allow people to drag him and his family through the mud and reveal maybe some things he's not entirely proud of from his past, to do what was right, to make a difference, to make America great again, to put America first. By no means am I against anyone being able to experience the freedom and the love that America has to offer. But at the same time, I'm broken daily by the Americans that are going hungry and homeless and without medical care here, while to put on a show, in my opinion, you reach out to everyone else while your America falls to the wayside. I'm not the most political person in the world. I don't know all of the different parts of, politics and the houses of representatives and Congress and everything else like that. I'm just a normal person that can see clearly for once. And my prayer is that Trump can bring back our America to us before it's too late.
Hi, my name is Ava. Greetings from Iraq. I am a professor and a researcher and writer who presently lives in Kurdistan, Iraq. My husband is Kurdish, and I wish to say I am happy that I have chosen in my life to walk away from the Democratic Party. My path to going towards the Republican Party was due to multifold reasons. Number one, I did not ever vote for President Obama. And when I chose not to vote for President Obama, I witnessed how many Democrats in the Washington, D.C. area tended to call people like me Uncle Toms, traitors to our race, etc. I am not a traitor to anyone. And as a matter of fact, I grew up and in college witnessing and speaking to and listening to those veterans of the civil rights movement, some who would actually agree with many elements of today's modern conservative party. But the primary thing that really disturbs me from afar is when I see leftist extremists ridiculing, putting down their family members, putting down their friends. That is not something that is good. We as Americans are better than that, and we should be better than that. We should agree to disagree. But sadly, particularly when I lived in the state of Washington and was doing research there, I witnessed many leftist extremists who were ridiculing people who chose to be Republicans. I witnessed some of them standing in highways to keep people from going to Donald Trump's rally. And I asked myself, what is the problem here? I witnessed on the West Coast many instances of politicians with leftist leanings who were not helping their communities with homelessness or with the problems of illegal immigration. I support immigration, but I support there being rules, and there needs to be rules. I went undercover as a researcher, witnessing how there were problems with illegal immigrants coming up from Mexico who were selling drugs. Drug usage is a big problem. Big problem. And if we look at the state of Washington, that is an ultra huge problem. The idea of sanctuary cities has not helped anyone. Indeed, there were 2 or 3 Mexican drug lords, former Mexican drug lords, who had told me how they felt that Donald Trump was correct, that there are problems coming up from Mexico. When a former drug lord or someone who was previously in the drug industry is telling you that, then you know people should be listening. But instead, there are many who choose to mock the Republican Party for bringing up these issues. There are far too many who wish to call them racist. And I feel this is one of the number one reasons why progress has not been made in the arenas of drug dealers, etc., is due to these extreme leftist leanings. And it has got to stop. And therefore, I am so happy to be able to say I am a proud Republican. I am very, very proud to be one. I am moderate. And I would encourage all minorities and people to not let your family make you feel guilty for your beliefs. I feel that regardless of whatever your political party is, no one should make you feel horrible that you have the belief. Surely we can discuss issues in a civilized manner in 21st century America. God bless everyone. Greetings from Kurdistan, Iraq. God bless the USA.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan, and I'm not a Russian bot. I'm an American citizen. I was born here in the United States, here in LA. And my hashtag walkaway story is, of course, I registered as a Republican. My parents and grandparents are from China, and from China, they went to Taiwan, and Taiwan, they came to here to become U.S. citizens. And the reason why I'm consider myself part of this hashtag walkaway movement is because my grandparents fled China because they wanted to escape the tyranny and the control of the Communist Party led by Mao Zedong at the time. And once they fled, and all my relatives, once they fled to Taiwan, even though it did grant them some sort of freedom, at the same time it was an island and the opportunity was very limited. So they decided to chase bigger dreams. And then that's when they immigrated here into the United States and became U.S. citizens. And when my parents came here in the 80s, I was born about a couple of years later. And ever since then, I am proud to be an American. You know, I get to enjoy the liberties that I have today, to this very day. I would say that I've never regretted being American at all. I don't feel oppressed. Okay. I'm not going to hold a grudge on let's say maybe white person that committed an act of racial tension or violence like 40, 50 years ago. You know, I don't care about that because that's history. You know, we learn history because we learn from our mistakes, not to repeat them. And what the left is doing now is they're trying to push this hateful rhetoric about people that don't agree with them, people that basically that side with, that are either simply have a different political view or be labeled as either a fascist, a racist, a bigot. And it'll get to the point where some of them will either even verbally attack and physically attack people. And that's where it gets to the point where I just feel that I can't really be silent about that anymore. And, you know, the United States has these Bill of Rights or constitutions, has the Constitution for a reason. It's to grant liberty, you know, to those people that want to escape from that tyranny. My parents came to this country because they wanted to escape tyranny. And the rhetoric and the agenda that the left is pushing as of right now was the very reason that my parents or my relatives fled. And yet they're trying to bring that here. My grandparents have passed away now. But at the same time, I'm also kind of glad that they're not here to see the kind of hate and the kind of political agenda that they are trying to push, because I know they will not stand it. And they will not stand for it. And they will not tolerate that kind of rhetoric being shoved down our throats. But do I hate the left just for saying this stuff? No. But at the same time, I also don't feel that they should be shoving their views down our throats, and that we all should have our own political views, regardless of what political party you are. But in the meantime, I'm also supporting the side of the conservatives and our president is because of the extreme bias and, like I said, the extreme hate that the left is trying to push. And it's just basically, you know, gave me the impression that they don't stand for equality, for freedom, you know, for tolerance. They don't stand for any of that. The left doesn't stand for any of that. And so anyway, that's my hashtag walkaway story on why I was a Republican, and why the reason why my family is Republican was to flee from communism, flee from dictatorship, you know, free from government control. And this is my message to a lot of the people that have walked away. And as a registered Republican, I welcome you. Proud to be in America. Proud to be an American. Welcome aboard.
Hello everyone, I'm Elisa. Here's my walk-away story. I'm actually not a United States citizen. I moved to this country when I was 11, so I've been a permanent resident with a green card ever since, so this is my country now. Let me think. I've never been political at all. But I do remember the first time I remember being excited about a president was Barack Obama, because I thought he was so cool. And of course I can't vote, but you know, I was really happy about that. And by his second term, I guess the shine had gone off. It was not very interesting. The very first time I actually slightly became political was when Ron Paul was running for office. And the things he said were so amazing. And of course, but I still can't vote. So of course he didn't win the nomination. And after that, a few years later, I got into a few conspiracy theories and learned about the Federal Reserve, and kind of slowly red pilling, not any drastic moment. By the time the election came up and Hillary and Bernie were competing, I was listening to Bernie Sanders, and I thought he had a lot of good things to say, because I still wasn't that involved in whether I was a Democrat or a Republican. When you first hear Bernie Sanders speak, and free this and free college, and I've got relatives in Europe, and I thought, that's they have stuff like that there, and that seems good, and free college. But then Donald Trump started speaking, and I was so amused by him, and everything seemed to start falling apart at some point after that. I think the divisiveness that I noticed started way before the elections happened, and it was Barack Obama was not putting an end to the riots, and even during the elections, there were rallies, and there was Antifa, and there were people being beat up on the streets, and Obama wasn't coming out against it at all. And since then it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And I noticed back before the elections, why do I never see any violence at Hillary rallies? None. Why is it always at Trump rallies, always outside? Why are they always attacking them? And I said something to a coworker about that, and I said, have you noticed that all the left is attacking Trump supporters? It's always the left that are violent. And with the prominence of YouTube, which has just opened up a whole new world for everybody, she said, no, I hadn't noticed. It got worse and worse and worse. And my walkaway story is not necessarily about one candidate to another, but if I could vote, I'd vote for Trump. Because I think he's just sticking a pin in the balloon of this perception of the left-right paradigm of I don't think it really mattered up until this year, I think the Democrats and the Republicans were just in bed with each other. I think they just took turns back and forth, and nothing ever changed. But the thing that has really changed since I've been in this country, that really upsets me, is the hate. The hate coming from the, the hate coming from the left and the media. And I didn't even think about race until this year or last year. I'm not racist. I never thought about it. I've always lived in areas where there are people of all different nationalities, different colors, and everybody was cool with each other. And now there's so much hate. I can barely look at comments on YouTube videos or Trump's Twitter or anything like that because there's so much nastiness coming. And they're buying into it. That's the problem. And I'm sure they're good people. But the media is just causing people to turn into racist when I know they're probably not deep down. And then you get that, you feel that hatred coming at you day after day after day. And it's like, I don't want to have to push that away. I don't want to turn into a racist because you're a racist. Kind of like you keep feeling people hate you and hate you and hate you. And after a while, it's like, you know, well, damn you. It's like, I don't want to be that way. I refuse to be that way. I turned off my TV. And I canceled my Netflix account. And I don't go see movies anymore. I don't want that shit in my head. I really don't. The only media I watch is independent reporters, people on YouTube. So, sorry for crying. It's just really hard sometimes to try and stay informed, and you just keep coming in contact with all this crap. I hope more people wake up. Anyway, I walked away from Hollywood, from the media, from everything that Anyway, I don't have anything more to say. Sorry for getting emotional. Love you all.
Hi, my name is Steve, and I walked away years ago. And it was for the same kind of stuff that I see going on right now in our political environment, where a good man is being falsely accused, in my personal belief, completely falsely accused, just because he's going to be a Supreme Court justice of one of the worst things you can ever be accused of doing. It is a sick, sick thing that's going on right now in our country. And this is why I walked away years ago. This kind of stuff, it's been my estimation. I had this talk with my son recently. I said, son, liberals are some of the most racist people you'll ever meet. And I know this from personal experience. Years ago when I first thought about telling friends I worked with at the time, back when I lived in Arizona, I'm thinking about voting Republican. You know, I like the things they're talking about. I like the platform. I like the idea of being able to cut our taxes and more personal freedom. And that friend who was not black looked at me and said, how could you vote Republican? You're black. And that just told me a lot in and of itself. No, it wasn't the reason I left, but those kinds of things, those little things that I kept watching over and over again, kind of told me what I needed to know. See, when they think they have a lock on you, you're not allowed to leave. And when you've been wronged, as long as you think the way they think, it's okay. But the politics of women's politics, race politics, as long as you agree with them, it's okay. They got your back. But you step off the plantation, you veer too far away from the fold, they got nothing for you. And we're seeing it play out on a national stage in our country. It's sick. I walked away, and I'm glad I did. Thank you guys for your time.
Hi everybody, my name is Billy. My stage persona is named Kitty, so this is Kitty. Anyway, I want to talk about the moment I walked away. And the moment I walked away was when me and my husband were invited to a 4th of July party. And after that party, my large group of Latino gay friends called my husband the N-word. And that devastated me. I did not expect that. And since then, no one has reached out to me. No one's apologized to me, and they've all stuck together. Another moment I realized there was something going on with the Democrats, Liberal Party, or just my community in general. People I respected highly in the entertainment business, drag performers, would preach love and hate against it from the stage. And then they would go backstage and use the N-word and talk about Mexicans. I find them to be extremely phony. And I knew it was time to walk away. I left some friends behind, and that's, whatever, I don't care. But they've also left me behind. I've had many people just stop talking to me, delete me on social media. And while I enjoy, I enjoy being gay, I enjoy being a drag queen, I don't like the expectation of being a liberal Democrat and standing up for these crazy beliefs that they have. I do believe I should have the right to be married. I understand that's not a conservative viewpoint, and that's fine with me. We all don't have to agree on everything. But, in the end, I'm just a regular guy. And I don't see any agenda or any policies that the Democrats or the liberals are pushing other than transgender bathrooms. I don't get it. Like, they seem so set on fringe groups or such small minorities of people. They should be concerned with the majority. And we all pretty much live the same way. We all live in cities. We all live in the United States. We all pay taxes. We all want to be happy. And I don't see any policies that they have other than open the borders. Well, I live really close to the border. I live about 90 miles away. And I live near LA. And the thing is, well, I actually live in San Bernardino. You all know that name by now, the city. Terrorist attack, whatever. There's, murders every night. It's a pretty bad town. And There are a lot of illegals here. I grew up with illegals. I know who they are. I grew up with anchor babies. It's very common out here. Everybody has an illegal friend. I know how they get here. I know people who smuggle babies in over the border. I know people who actually have left and gone back because they were afraid of being deported. I grew up next door to a home, a transitional home for illegals. They had an acre of land and they filled it with camper shells and trailers, and the horse stables that were on the property they converted into little studios, and they had tons and tons of people there. The people stole from us. They vandalized our property. We would wake up with beer bottles in our swimming pool, and soon everybody's property values went down. Every household ended up, 10 people moving into each house. So they're, of course, overusing city services. The streets are not intended to accommodate that many people. And, it really, really, through the years, you could see quality of life changing, the culture changing. I even had a neighbor. There were 5 acres. They lined it with old garage doors, and then they sold tickets to dog fights. So people would pay to watch dogs tear each other up. Of course, the police did nothing. It was awful. Chickens would kill each other, and people are there cheering and having a great time. That is not our culture. That should not be here. I mean, it shouldn't exist anyway, but you know what? It should exist where that culture is. Go back and have your dog fights. We don't want to see it. We don't want to be a part of it. Anyway, I'm rambling on. Anyway, so that's my Me Too story. That's why I'm here. I want to thank the administrator, the creator, for doing this. I see it growing. I see the hashtag being used. I will be sure to pass it along. And I want to thank you guys for, watching this, hearing me. Hopefully it was a little entertaining. Anywho, see you guys. Have a good night.
Hello everyone, I'm Therese. It took me a while to become brave enough to actually make a video. When I saw Brandon's video, I was instantly hooked to his message because I just felt like, oh gosh, he's just saying what's in me, what I wanted to say, and I don't have the right words to say it, and I'm not brave enough to say it to my liberal friends. I grew up in Switzerland. I moved here in 2008. I'm married with a man from the United States, and when we first got together, we both were liberals. I was a very liberal, free-spirited, hippie person in my youth, and back home in Switzerland before I came here, it was kind of like that. All my friends were like, oh, the people in the United States, they're crazy, and Bush, and da-da-da, and I didn't know much about it, and I just kind of like, yeah, he's crazy. And but to be honest, I listened to the news, but I didn't really get the problems. I didn't really get it, and I was just following the crowd, and I believed I'm liberal, and they stood for my values, and that's just how I believed everything is. I came here and the election was, and Obama, oh yeah, so exciting. And I was like totally supporting him. And my husband's family is mainly conservative, and I debated with them. I thought I knew things. And so when he got elected, I was super excited. I had happy tears and everything. And then things went on, and it kind of, something changed in my husband. He just seemed to become more conservative, and it even kind of like was like almost a struggle in our relationship in the beginning. And he would tell me stuff which I believed, but no, but the liberals, that's the liberal side, isn't it? And he's like, no, the conservatives, these are their values and so. And I got more and more confused, and then the whole Syria thing happened, and in Europe with Germany and Merkel and everything. And I started following the news in Europe also more, and I just was like, oh my, I don't like that. I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't think it's good. And I saw in the news like, oh no, it's not a big deal, and yeah, we have room for everyone in Germany. But I heard my friends talking in Europe and their view were different. No, it's not good. The crimes has gone up, and a lot of shit happened. And so this kind of like changed things for me too. And I got more and more interested in politics here. I started reading more, and I started listening more to news, and we started following Fox News too. But because I was not ready at all to become conservative, I always looked at both sides, and but it wasn't helpful at all, because I got more and more confused. I was like, I don't get it. Who's telling the truth? What is right and what's wrong? I don't get it. And at some point I was like, okay, you know what? I'm out of here. I just focus on my kids and my family and my neighborhood. That's where I feel comfortable. That's what I know what's going on. And during the election from Trump, I kind of thought Trump's a joke. I mean, I didn't think, like, I really seriously didn't think he could ever be elected. I didn't have a problem with him. I thought, he's actually, I actually like the things he said, but I just thought the way he's talking to people, the way he's talking about people, I just thought, well, it's not very presidential. And so I thought that's just kind of a joke and will go away. And I personally kind of liked Rubio and Ben Carson. Whenever I listened to them, I was like, I like that. And I never really liked Hillary. I don't know what, there was just too much crap going on about her, and I just didn't trust her whole personality. I don't know, it's just, there was something about that lady I could not get my head around. And I liked Bill Clinton a lot. But anyway, so I was like, oh, I'm kind of glad I don't have to vote, because I have only a green card, so I can't vote, unfortunately. But at that point I was like, well, okay, I'm out. I don't have to do anything. I just watch those crazy Americans. And then Trump got elected. And I had to laugh. I was like, wait, this is so silly. How is that even possible? But I thought it was kind of cool. It's like, I have to say, before Trump got elected, because I wanted to know more about him, I started reading books about him. And I kind of thought, he's actually not that bad. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have such a successful business person run a country like a business. I kind of thought it wouldn't be that bad and could be interesting. And I really thought of him, even though might be a jerk sometimes, but I thought I really liked his way of big thinking, like there's great things are possible, and this is kind of like how I live my life too. I feel like you have to think bigger and that you can make changes, and if you believe in it. And so when he got elected, I was like, yeah, you know what, this is gonna be interesting, and I think he could actually really make a change. So I posted on Facebook, I said, even though neither of them would be my ideal choice, I stand behind Trump, I support him, and I wish him the best of luck in his presidential time. And oh my, that was not good. I worked at a place for 6 years, and I lost my job because of that comment. My boss, we started kind of like debating a little bit about it, and she really felt personally offended by him, and I mean, I kind of tried to, I kind of was sorry, but I also was like, but I believe that he actually can do good, and this is my view. Anyway, I lost my job because of that, and we never talked anymore ever since. And it was kind of tough. I was a nanny, I knew that family for so long. I knew they were liberal, and they knew my political views too, and it was just kind of like, whoa, okay. From that point, I was like, okay, I have to be careful. I stopped posting things on Facebook. I also noticed that some of my very liberal friends, that they either unfriended me or they unfollowed me. But I kept following them, and I just saw all those posts, those liberal posts, which it was like, oh, but I can't stand behind that. This is weird. It makes me upset, and it just got more and more. And I feel like my Facebook feed is like full of these lies, and yeah, it disgusts me too. And living in Oregon, in Portland, Oregon, which is very liberal, there's not many conservative friends here I have. And the ones I have, I can really only talk about politics when there's nobody else around. I noticed that whenever there's a group of people, it's only liberal views are discussed, and every conservative person is just kind of like quiet about it. It gets heated the moment somebody is mentioning something positive about Trump, and so people just stay quiet. Conservatives just stay quiet. And another thing is also like I got to the point where I talked to my husband. I was like, what's happening? I don't get it. I mean, I thought I'm a liberal, but now I'm seeing here all those crazy liberals on the side of the road protesting and putting those hate signs up and stand for something I don't get. I don't stand for that. And so I was. We talked a lot about it, and kind of like I started realizing that, well, that the liberals are actually not standing behind my values, and that it's almost like it totally switched. That yeah, I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Hi, my name is Claudia Nelson, and I live in Auburndale, Florida. I want to tell you about my walk-away moment, but it was many, many years ago, more than 40 in fact. I was 16 years old with very abusive parents. They were alcoholics, and my weekends were spent sitting at tables in bars and wishing I were home, playing and doing kid things. I grew up on a lake. It was wonderful when I was home. On school nights, my brother and I would literally fall asleep on that table in the bar until my parents decided to take us home. And as a result, my high school grades weren't that great, but I managed to stay a C student. At age about 17, I got pregnant, and this was after my father spent years and years calling me a tramp and a slut. And I got pregnant and knew that my dad would kill me if he found out. So one day when he held me against the wall by the throat and I almost passed out, and then he threw me into the bathtub and called me those names again, I calmly went into my room and took my little green suitcase my grandma had given me and packed a few of my things in it, and I walked away from that. I'll tell you what, that made me really strong. I almost sought an abortion, but I couldn't find any friends to go with me, and I became shunned at high school. By the way, I did finish high school, even though I wasn't living at home any longer. My boyfriend's parents took me in, which was very kind of them, even though his mother couldn't stand me. And I had our daughter, and she was a beautiful little girl. But by age, I would say 20, 21, I started to lose the love I had for him. He had cheated on me, and I really didn't like being married. And here I am, age 64, and never got married again. Had plenty of boyfriends, but I really like being independent. So I had been president of Young Democrats in high school. And the older I got, the more I started to realize that they weren't the same party my mother loved so much, the party of Kennedy. When I was about maybe 45 years old, my mother and I got into a huge fight over politics, and we didn't talk for 8 years. Then recently, when one of my nieces got married, we met up again, and I had gained so much weight by then she didn't know who I was. Menopause is a bitch, let me tell you. And I walked up to her and hugged her and told her we weren't going to do this anymore. It turns out she had cancer, and I moved her in with me, and 6 months later she passed away. But not before telling me that she wanted to vote by mail 1 week before her death for Donald Trump. I was shocked. Oh my God, she was the yellow dog Democrat of the century. She would rather have voted for a yellow dog than vote for a Republican. So my mouth was hanging open, and I said, why? And she said, well, don't you want Donald Trump? I said, yeah, but why? And she said, I'm tired of all the lying. I'm tired of the weirdness. I'm tired of the protests and the violence. It has to go. So I got her mail-in vote, and she voted, but she passed away about 12 to 19 days, I can't remember when, before he was voted in. So I know she's in heaven with her MAGA hat on, cheering away. Anyway, I've watched her party of Kennedy go down the tube slowly, and I thought it would never get this far. I really didn't think it would get this far. But now enough is enough, and we need to do something about this. I want to say to all of you who have walked away, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you found the truth. I have been trying to educate people for the last 12 years and have been called the same names you have. People hop on my page and call me the C word and bitch and Nazi and the same things you guys got. I mean, they don't have any really creative material anymore, do they? Anyway, I just wanted to thank you all for being there.
This is my follow-up video. I wanted to talk about how things have changed for me since I walked away from the Democratic Party. These are pretty exciting times for me in the sense that I'm no longer afraid. I live in a very liberal city that is San Francisco, and Things are very extreme here when it comes to politics. I mean really, really far left. And they are everywhere. So it hasn't exactly been easy for me. In the beginning, they tried to brainwash me and turn me into one of them so that I would act like them, think like them. And job well done. I did conform. It seemed nearly impossible not to in this bubble where everybody acts the same and thinks the same. But I didn't handle it very well. I was anxious 24/7. I couldn't speak up. God forbid I disagree with them on anything. Whatever I said was somehow offensive. Just non-stop. I am so happy that I'm now part of the walkaway movement because this is what gave me the courage to finally stand up for myself and say enough is enough. I'm a good person. I don't deserve to be treated like this. Why am I being called a racist Nazi for no reason? Those words have meaning. They don't bully me anymore because I won't let them. Of course they still try to. Of course there is still verbal abuse, emotional abuse. I've been called every name in the dictionary and not in the dictionary. And it's been happening so many times that it just doesn't affect me anymore. I've already heard it all. There's no surprises here. According to leftists, I shouldn't even be a part of the walkaway movement because, well, I'm from Russia. And they like to say that walkaway is run by the Russians. So I guess I just can't be here anymore. Leftists are straight up discriminating against Russians because of their nationality, and then they go ahead and tell people not to discriminate against others based on their nationality. I need a second to let the hypocrisy waft over me. And then when I disagree with leftists, they say things like, go back to Russia. What happened? I thought they liked immigrants. Or is it just the illegal ones that get to stay? I'm not going anywhere. Half of my life I spent just dreaming of being right here. I had to jump through hoops of fire to enter this country. I waited for years. I filled out the paperwork. I did the medical exams. I had to learn the entire English language when I was 18 already. Because I know what it cost me to get here, I appreciate every second in this country. Before I ever became a citizen, I already was more patriotic than all of the leftists combined. No, you go to Russia. Maybe if they went to Russia, they'd start appreciating this country a little bit. Doesn't look like they're loving it very much right now. They don't even know the things they get to have here. I'd never seen an openly gay person until I moved to America at the age of 18. I'd never seen an African American person until I met one in the airport when I landed in America. Again, I was 18. Transgender people? I had to look it up. I wasn't sure what it meant. You'll never see this in Russia. So when I moved here, I was mind blown. And leftists, looking at the very same picture, are only seeing the negative stuff. They'll only talk about racism and discrimination and racism. And did I mention discrimination? And by that, I mean you look at somebody the wrong way and well, that's just it. You're racist. I'd love to invite them to the country that I'm from and see how they'd survive there for a little bit with this kind of attitude. Because trust me when I tell you, they'd come back running. They'd be kissing the ground. They don't know how good they have it because they have nothing to compare it to. No way they'd be acting like this. They talk about white privilege, male privilege. Living in America is a privilege. Them being citizens of this country and all they had to do was be born, there's your privilege. You're welcome. Male privilege. I could step out right now, find any guy I choose, and just destroy his entire life. I could make up some false accusation, and that's just it. 50 years ago, he violated me. I wasn't even born 50 years ago, but it doesn't matter, it's just details. I'm a woman, and you listen to what I say. God, I hope I never have a son. The way men are treated in this society, sick. Walk away from this madness. It's getting worse and worse. I feel like I'm in a movie and there's zombies everywhere, and I'm one of the very few people trying to escape from this. It took me years to get here, and I'm the most patient person you'll ever meet. So for me to lose my patience, you have to really try. Walk away from the hysteria, the intolerance, inability to have a conversation with somebody who doesn't agree with you. They actually needed therapy when conservative speakers came to town. I don't know if I should laugh or cry. Speak up and walk away from this madness. I know I have no regrets. I refuse to be a part of whatever this is. Thank you, and God bless.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Crawford, and I walked away about 6 months before this last election. I'd been a lifelong Democrat until I couldn't anymore. My husband started figuring it out when I just wasn't laughing along with everybody against Donald Trump, and when I started to recognize that Donald Trump was the only person who was talking about the terrorism in Palestine, and the fact that we fund terrorists right and left. I couldn't believe what had been going on a foreign policy platform under the previous administration that I'd voted for twice, because that was the obligation, right? I wasn't a racist, and I was for the underclass, right? So in 1996, I was being told I couldn't talk about Bill Clinton and the horrifying things that he had been doing to interns under his control, right? And my son comes home at 8 years old and he's making cigar jokes, and I'm having to, deal with the fact that, our president is doing despicable things, and the hypocrisy was evident even then. But I was told you can't criticize because the Republicans will win. And then you'll be responsible for letting the devils in. Okay, oh my God, can't have that. Can't have the Republicans coming. So, George Bush and invasion of Iraq, and, everybody was righteously angry, so that was okay, but God forbid when Barack Obama came in, and 3 weeks into his administration, he expands the FISA court. He commands all of our communications companies to dump all the information to Congress, to him, to his new spy state, and extends it and eliminates any sunset clause, so now it's a formal part of our government. That was 3 weeks into his administration. The guy had run on a platform of dismantling the spy state. And it was and for 8 years, I was completely stifled and couldn't talk about it. And I'm watching with the Keystone XL that he just keeps, dicking us around with, because, he keeps that alive for 8 years. He's taking money from the oil companies the whole time he's crying renewable energy and climate change, right? the hypocrisy just went on and on and on. And then when Hillary Clinton was shoved down our throats and I was told because I had a vagina and so did she, I had to vote for her. Because it was her turn. Because she knew best. And she had, and don't get me started with selling 1/5 of our uranium to Russia, with having John Podesta in charge of the company who managed that transaction. Her brother now runs all of the gold leases in Haiti, where the Clinton Foundation took over after the earthquakes. And we all know the state that Haiti is still in. The criminality scares me now. I see how the Matrix could actually absolutely happen. I wake up every day and I thank God for Donald Trump and his guts and the American system, because we broke free. And it was really, really close, people. I've been studying this since I can first remember. And we were that close. God bless America. And God bless Donald Trump. And God bless all of you. Walk away. I lost half my family, but I live proudly and cleanly, and we are so strong. Bless you all. Thank you.
So I've been wanting to do this for a while, kind of tell my story. I posted my story about 2 months ago, how I was a Democrat and how I believed everything that Democrats want you to believe. And I was pretty indoctrinated in that. I'm now, I guess, a Republican. More lean to independent, but definitely conservative. About 10 years ago, worked for fast food, flipping burgers, not really doing much of my life. Blamed everything on, people that had things, that somehow they achieved it by, stepping on the necks of, poor people and stealing money from people less fortunate than them. So I believed all that, blamed all my issues on, people that had things I wanted, but I didn't want to work for it. So I came to a point in my life where, I realized in order to get the things I wanted, in order to succeed in life, I had to do it on my own. Not depend on the government or depend on anyone else to provide me these things. 10 years later, I have a established career. I'm a cybersecurity engineer, making a lot of good money. And last month, me and my wife and daughter closed on a house. It's like between now and 10 years ago, it's like everything just completely turned around for me. And it's all because I stopped blaming things on other people that had no influence on my own actions. And pretty much woke up. And as I progressed in my IT career, I learned how to analyze things and look at things, from a non-biased standpoint, rebuild pretty much digital crime scenes and what happened, collecting evidence, correlating it with other sources, and coming to a conclusion. I pretty much took that and I used it, my decision making in politics. And if I have used everything I just said on what the Democrats are doing, they would have no evidence that would stand up at all to any kind of investigation. Based on facts, based on evidence that people can, verify. and correlate with other evidence through other tools, etc. Yeah, they have absolutely nothing. And as I started doing that, I started realizing what a sham the Democratic Party is, and they pretty much profit off of victim mentality and wanting to keep people thinking that they're that way because of someone else. Someone else is preventing them from excelling, when in reality, that's where the Democrats want them. Unfortunately, they want people to be uneducated and dependent on them to keep them in power. In order to do that, they pointed at other people, telling them that they're the reason why, those people are the reason why that they're that way, when it's completely false. So, it's just my 2 cents, my walk-away story from the Democratic Party, and would definitely not be going back. Thank you.
Sullivan, and I want to tell you my story about why I walked away. It's been a while since I walked away, but my grandfather was a union leader, so my family has been Democrat going back several generations, and I actually worked on the Clinton campaign when Bill Clinton ran. But as time went on and I started seeing what was going on with the Clintons, first of all, and then when I started doing some research and I started finding out what was happening with the media, and that George Soros was basically forming these NGOs to sway the vote throughout the United States. And like he did in other areas of the world, other countries that he's actually been banned in, as have his organizations. Then lastly, when the WikiLeaks came out, and I actually read them, and I saw some of the horrific things that were going on with the Podestas, the Clintons, and others, that was the last straw that made me say, okay, that's it. No more voting for Democrat, even if I think that some of their candidates may be better than some of the Republican candidates. And then I saw Donald Trump, who I truly believe actually loves the United States. I honestly don't believe that the man meant to run at first. I think he did it more antagonistically to try to get the people to step up their game a bit. But I think once he toured the United States and saw the huge decline in our cities and our youth addicted to opiates and the really horrific youth gangs, all different youth gangs, that a lot of them, their members are illegal aliens. I believe that when he saw what bad shape the United States is in, I really truly do believe that he is a patriot and he has the best in mind for them. Then when I saw the attacks, that most of them are founded on false premises that the media is putting forward as fact, I was horrified. And when I tried to start to educate people to the truth of George Soros, the Bilderbergs, the Rothschilds, etc., and these people basically shut me down and got violently angry that I would even try to put forth facts. And some who've been my friends for 25 years or more actually unfriended me. That was the last straw for me. So now I just tell people, I try to turn it into a joke if they get that bad, but I do continue to put out facts. I go on to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I put up factual posts, and sometimes funny ones, just trying to teach people about the facts that they're buying into, untruths all the time if they're listening to the mainstream media. That's basically a Soros tool globally, and that he does own 80% of the U.S. media, or control it anyway. And the fact that he's been banned from even his own country. And I also put up some things about this Svalbard seed bank from a global research foundation that you can look up yourself on Google. And when you read all the way to the bottom of that article and see the history of what's going on with some of the people that are involved in that want to patent seeds and have promulgated the Terminator gene in seeds around the world, making it a requirement for people to buy seeds then after that. So there's a lot of really bad things going on in the world, and I really think that the only hope is for the people to step up and wake up and walk away and start voting for people that are real, that care. None of us are perfect. So this slamming people because of things that happened 20 years ago is ridiculous. It's got to stop. No one's perfect. Personal attacks are not okay. And the absolute irony and ridiculous assaults by fascists who call themselves anti-fascists are horrifying to me. Anyway, I'm glad everybody here has walked away, and hopefully we can encourage more to do so. Keep up the good work, guys. See ya.